Greetings and salutations and welcome once again to the Capeless Crusaders live at the time from Empire's Comics Vault. Hopefully this sounds good. We are your number one, supposedly, podcast for anything allegedly comic book related, so the rumor mills say. My name is, of course, David Barry at Dr. Barry on varying social media platforms. I didn't have the placards. I know, I can't even see the image, and I know the placards aren't there. I'm so upset with myself right now. God, producing a podcast sucks.
And that was our airing of the grievances for this Festivus.
Who's to my right? I can feel you touching me. I don't want to look.
The Luso without fear. This is the Azorian one, Anthony Esteves.
Was that a Portuguese thing?
Luso is the Celtic tribe they come from.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
And way over there. Sorry, what?
Oh, we're dropping it like it's hot all the way to the end of the table.
Manage to say later.
Or you want to drop it to the swooped one?
No, to you. To you.
To me,
To the
the one with
Spider-Verse.
the really awesome mic that's going to have all the problems because you'll hear every fidget, and I'm going to be in so much trouble. Yeah, you know you love it. This is Amy. You can find me at iJaneURobot on Ring social medias and on every other week of the Dame Patrol.
Yeah.
But next to me, my other comrade in arms, who's also heading up their own show.
I am Manderson at Son of Mander on some of the medias that I use. Media, sorry. That's wrong, right?
Yeah.
That's
it.
an old thing.
That's okay. And yeah, I do have a crow.
Oh, yeah, you get
He has
the
a pet crow.
Take two. I have a show called Crossover with my brother Danderson.
I have a crow called Show Over.
Anywho,
Just join Sam Crow.
What do you talk about on your show?
Don't make
It's called
a neat
Crossover.
crow.
We cross over things.
Aw.
So we talk about sports and comics because those are things that you don't think belong together, but trust me, they do. That's why we're doing the show.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
From like a standpoint
of some kind.
of
A
some
stand-
Yeah, we
Point?
kind of go into why we think they go together in the first episode. So
It's
go back
like
and watch that.
it's like when you like watch a baking show and they're like, oh, chocolate and
Anchovies.
or orange or something. Like it's like a known thing, but like when you say that, I'm like, that doesn't sound good. But they're like, oh, but you know, on the croissant.
Qu'est-ce qui c'est?
It's fresh frozen.
You know, yeah, exactly.
Ratatouille?
Anyway, real fast, just so you're aware, what he was saying about the Portuguese coming from a Celtic clan.
the Lusitano.
If you look at the original, like the Gaulish people, the people that all the Celtic tribes came from, they were basically all forced out by Romans, and they went north, they went east, they went west, and they went south. So like Portuguese, they actually come from Celtic tribes the same way Irish and Scottish do. Bingo!
Ooh.
That's your lesson for today. That's
Thanks
the
for
episode.
watching, everyone.
We're
Have a
done.
good night. Take care.
For anything related to the Capeless Crusaders, you can go to thecapelesscrusaders.com. I don't even know which side it's on.
It's there.
It's
I thought
on
it was
one.
over
It's
my
above one. It probably is over you. Actually, it is.
It's over my head.
Thecapelesscrusaders.com, your hub for all things Crusader related. From there, you can find all of our social medias, our Twitch, our YouTube. Support us on Patreon. Read a blog or two. See our other shows. The website is getting overhauled because we are in the process. We are no longer just the Capeless Crusaders. We are now TCC Network, which is why we have so many freaking shows now. We have shows that have dames. We have shows that have jocks and Manderson. We have other shows. You're just, I mean,
That's
you're
accurate. Very
thin,
polite.
but you don't strike me as a like you're not like kicking the football, you know.
But preview to the next show, I'm going to talk about how I played football in high school.
Dang it!
Oh,
Well, there you
were you the
Well,
kicker?
and I'm wrong. Yeah, were you the kicker?
First string bench warmer.
I was gonna say, Amy, just throwing it right out there. You were the kicker.
You were the kicker.
I don't know. I was asking
Field
you a
goal.
question.
Yeah, you were the punter. That's fine. Yeah, it was your job to dive at the last guy.
Only the last.
And then we have a Steve show where he, does whatever he
The
wants.
road
Whatever.
show was fantastic.
The road show
I'm
was
excited
great.
to watch it.
It was so much fun. Just checking
Apparently,
out the
Spyro Fist. Everybody in the chat is like, it is fire. So
It
much fire.
is-
We are lit.
fire.
Fire.
So
Thank you, chat, for coming in tonight for us. By the way, we should probably talk about our sponsors before we
we
talk about
should.
chat.
Those that sponsor
Yeah.
TCC Network,
Yeah.
dun, dun, they are threefold. Yes. First, we are in them right now.
Oh, yeah, we are.
That's over.
Empires.
That's over Steve's head.
Comics Vault, our home away from home of comics, hot sauce, pugs, Ben, Amy on some days.
Mostly Mondays.
Mostly Mondays.
If you like Storm Polio, come and bug Mike on Sundays.
He's so cool. I love Storm.
We're
Polio.
located at 1120 Fulton Avenue,
Sweet K. That's the comic book store we all shop at most of the time. Our other sponsors.
What does that mean?
I mean, I go to other comic book stores, but like Ben's
This
where
is the HQ.
exactly.
We worked at other comic book stores.
Yes, we love other comic book stores.
We
We
do.
love all comic book
do.
stores. All comic book stores. I'm not going to say matter because that makes it a political thing, and that's not what we're talking
No.
about. Hey, but I don't know if you've noticed. If you watch the show frequently, you might realize
Yeah.
I'm missing something.
What do you
Besides the title cards.
Beard face.
Beard Fassé. Scrubs reference. Scrubs reference. Yes, I shaved for holiday pictures. And it was one of those things where I was trimming and I was like, cool, I'll trim. And then all of a sudden I'm like, nope, got to trim this side.
Gotta shave.
And then just like, well,
There it
There
is.
it is. But
All gone.
here's this amazing thing. I trimmed my beard and my face is still kind of itchy. So I use my beard balm
There it
brush.
is.
Oh.
It feels good. Beard balm brush. They take beeswax. They take beard balm. They take beard oil. They combine it all into a Koopa shell that you
Koopa.
throw at your face as if it were Mario leading Mario Kart.
One.
That sounded really good in the headphones. I wish you guys had headphones. It's a lot of fun. I better take them off at some point because they're kind of screwing with my ears. Yeah, that's it's echoey and creepy. But yeah, beard balm brush. You can take that and you can run it through long beard, short beard, stubble, whatever you have. Makes it look
Goatees.
good, makes it feel good,
Yarn
soft,
beards.
smell good, yarn beards, and just in time for the holidays, you can go to Beard Balm Brush, use the code Capeless, and get 15% off your purchase. You can get a 3-pack. Manderson and I split a free pack. A free pack.
A free pack of
A
three.
3-pack. A free pack of free Beard Balm blushes.
You get free shipping on the 3-pack.
And marriage.
By the way, bro-in-law Joe interested after that.
He better be. He's got a beautiful beard, but it needs a little bit of the control.
Bingo.
Bango.
Bongo?
Hey, that was perfect. We're on it right now. And our last sponsor, the Critical Dice. Critical Dice. Is it .com? I always forget.
We always forget that part.
TheCriticalDice.com.
Yeah, if you go to use the code Capeless, you can get 15% off. You can buy yourself some dice. You can buy a dice rolling tray, which I think you
the
got.
tray is beautiful.
Yes, the tray is awesome.
Ooh.
It is so
What's it for?
beautiful.
Oh, so the tray that I have, I'll show it off at our next game. But basically, it's a piece of leather that's reinforced with cardboard that you can button together, and so it lays flat, and then you can put it together.
You
and
make
you
it
roll
into
your
a
dice
tray.
in it, so they don't roll off the table. They don't make loud clunking sounds when you're doing like a live stream, and you don't want the clunking sound of the dice to be
Not
on
the
there.
clunking
20s all over the
Um,
place.
I played with it yesterday as a DM.
Yeah, I bet you did.
I made excuses to roll dice more than I should have. It was great.
I'm going to roll a check for...
Oh, you instantly
I need
die.
to sneeze. Natural 20. All of the germs
Sneeze
expelled.
everywhere.
Gross. Red Elephant just asked about Brightburn, which is in. We didn't watch the trailer for it. It's the new James Gunn like horror, like basically Superman goes bad thing. It looks really good. It looks. It reminds me of Irredeemable, or there was another one. There was another comic book where they focused on. I don't think it has anything to do with it, but where Superman
Spyro
basically.
Fist has got the ones and twos.
That's the if Superman became evil. Yeah. Yeah, there was a comic, now I can't remember what it was called, but the Superman character landed in Kansas, and the parents were, the government basically came and killed them and took him and raised him to be a weapon.
Oh, it's not Red Sun?
No,
That's
it's
Russia.
basically it's like a similar, but in still happened in Kansas. Just the government got to him.
That's right.
That happened.
It was an indie comic, but yeah, they've done it multiple times. So we haven't got a chance to watch Brightburn yet. So I apologize to everyone in chat who's talking about it. We have other stuff in the news, but before we get to the news,
What's that?
after we talk about our sponsors, when
Yes.
we are in a comic book store,
We are.
What?
when we have our mic setup back again, and it sounds pretty good.
Because mine sounds better.
When
Yes.
we have stacks of comic books, we like to go round the horn.
Where the damn moonshine at?
Jesus.
Oh, chinkies.
You need to scooch up on your mic, says the chat.
I project.
I saw that. Thank you.
Just bring it all the way over the edge. Just get.
Oh,
just
the
get it.
cape? No, I don't think it's the cape.
That actually sounds familiar though, but I'm not sure.
Oh,
You okay?
Right there,
the
bud?
music is so hot.
My bad.
It's too hot, baby.
Was the around the horn was way too loud? Okay. Oh, I'll make sure. I don't know if I can. Wait, no, I think I can.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Yeah, there we go.
There's a
We can
ringing
just-
in my ears. I can't tell.
So
if
while
you're
we're
getting
working,
outside.
while you're working on
I'll
that,
turn that down. But when we go around the horn, after we blow out your eardrums, we go around the table in a circular fashion, except for the fact that we no longer have a circular table. We talk about what comic books we have been reading this week. Who wants to start us off? I want Steve's to start us off.
Oh, do you?
Yes,
Pass?
I do.
I read.
Yeah, he did. That's why I knew
Finally.
this.
That's right.
Good.
read 2 different titles in the Marvel Universe. I went back and read the very first issue of Iron Man.
Cool.
Forgive me, I didn't bring up the writer and artist of that one.
First, or like Tony Stark Iron Man?
Tony Stark Iron Man.
Okay.
Yeah, and which was funny because I went into it expecting, here's how he got his arc reactor and all that. No, he already has it in his very first solo. So I was like, okay, all right. He's on a ship trying to stop these terrorists from taking people hostage, and still a good guy at that time. The character in Winter Soldier who they're interrogating, that Black Widow kicks off the rooftop and Falcon brings him back up. I forgot his name. I'm sorry.
That's fine. We know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
okay,
the shield agent.
Yeah, he has his specific name, but I forgot his name.
Wow, now I'm blanking on it.
Yeah, he was in Avengers and he's in Winter Soldier, but he's hugging Hail Hydra.
Yeah.
So he's in that first issue. Good, he's not a Hydra agent in it, but it was a basic Iron Man saves the day. The bad guys trying to get Iron Man's technology, which they always are trying to, and failed, and Tony survives basically. But I forgot to get his name, but he's in there. But it was an interesting read. I enjoyed it. Not what I thought I was walking into and expecting, but yeah. So I read the first issue of Iron Man. Are you forgetting the name? Is that what you're trying to find out?
I'm trying to think of his name.
Go to IMDb real quick.
It's frustrating.
I know he's in Winter Soldier because he turns bad.
He was also in the when they were in the shorts. Him and Coulson were going to get the hammer.
Yes, that's him. Anyone guesses? Anyone at home?
I'm looking it up.
Thanks, man.
Are you looking it up?
I'm sorry. I was just actually listening to the delay, so I'm listening to 2 simultaneous conversations, and this is fantastic.
Okay, so
now you know where I'm at.
Exactly.
The chat wants us to talk about the Avenger trailer.
Agent Sitwell.
Thank you.
Sitwell.
It doesn't sit well with us.
Yes. Thank you.
But yeah, the chat wants us to talk about the Avenger trailer. We're going to. Amy's going to watch it. Calm down.
Calm down.
And
Yeah, he
then
hasn't watched it yet.
I did it on purpose for you guys. And the
I
other
know it was
one.
my idea. I'm sorry.
what's the other thing you read?
The other thing I read, I went back to what I started back in 2016 and then fell off the wagon. I'm back on it.
It's long to finish it.
I went back to Daredevil.
Oh yeah.
And I read 2 issues from where
Plop,
I picked
plop,
up
drip,
because
drip.
where I last left off was when
Gush gush. Flap flap flap.
was when his protege got stabbed in the eyes by that serial killer. That's where I left off.
I've
continued.
blind spot.
Yes, blind
literally.
spot. Thank you. Written by Charles Soule.
Yeah, Soule. He also writes almost all of the Star Wars runs for Marvel right now. So he did.
And he just wrapped his Daredevil run, right? Yeah, which was sad because he's really good. He did point out that his wrapping his Daredevil run had nothing to do with the cancellation.
I can't remember if he's on curse words or
Hence, there was
not.
also Dan Panosian.
I like when you try to do the whole team. I appreciate that.
And in those stories, Daredevil is upset what's happened to Blind Spot. He's almost at that point. They make you think like he just wants to be killed. So he puts out a hit on himself to all of his... they don't call it Rogues Gallery for Daredevil, but all the bad guys who want him. He puts out a hit for them to try and kill him.
He basically creates Nightfall on himself on purpose.
Yes, but he's still beating everyone up when they try. And we find out that Bullseye. Mm-hmm. Bullseye is on a rooftop, ready to shoot him, and this whole scene is of Bullseye shoots the bullet, and the whole time the bullet's coming at him, Matt is thinking of all the things that led to this moment and his past, and if he's ready to finally go. And we realize that, you know what? It was all part of Matt's plan. He wasn't planning on dying at all. Gasp. So yeah, I read the 2 issues there. They were numbers 15 and 16 of the 2015 Daredevil run that I left off in 2016.
Proud of you.
I'm happy to be back. Happy to be back.
Yeah.
Woohoo.
Should I go next?
Sure, why not?
Oh, yes. So I also, like you did a couple weeks ago, I caught up on Immortal Hulk 8 through 10. You want to talk about horror comics?
I haven't read 10 yet.
Dude,
scary.
It's good.
Dude, it's not scary, but it's creepy. It's eerie.
Okay.
It's basically now. So
Zombie Hulk?
Yeah. We talked about this
Yeah.
a couple times. So Banner, during the day, he's Banner. If he dies at night, or if he doesn't die, he comes back as the Hulk. So if he's dead, he resurrects as the Hulk. But the Hulk has, he's not the dumb beast. He doesn't have like it doesn't seem like he has like Banner's personality, but he's Banner's intellect basically. Yeah, gotcha. He's super smart, but he's his own thing. But he also still protects Banner.
Got it.
And so it's kind of creepy because he'll be doing the Hulk thing and he shrinks back down to Banner and he tries to steal some clothes and someone shoots him in the stomach and he lies there bleeding out, and then nightfall and all of a sudden he becomes the Hulk again.
So you have to wait.
Yeah,
Here's
sometimes.
the part: the guy who shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, the Steves, guess what his secret is?
What's that?
He's always
mad.
dead.
That's the
He's always
secret.
dead.
He's always dead.
Yeah, he's always dead. Yeah,
I love that line.
yeah. It's had some pretty creepy moments. The late. Did you see him being dissected?
Yes.
Yeah, they split him up into pieces and put him in jars.
Yeah.
and
then
he's
he's still,
alive.
laughing at
Yeah,
them.
and at one point he basically it's actually very Swamp Thing-esque, which we'll
Yes.
talk
I was
about.
gonna say, yeah.
Because they're doing the research on him, and he like starts smiling, and the guy's like, "Oh, you wanted us to study you because now you know it too." And then all of a sudden you see his hand floating, and it snaps and it shatters the jar, and all his body starts reforming. I'm like, this is so good. It is so much fun. Also, hometown hero Ramon Villalobos.
Yeah.
I read Border Town number 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
And you got that sign number
And I
one.
got the sign number 1. It's so freaking good. It's gonna be on our best of episode. Border Town is phenomenal. And then I also read Martian Manhunter number 1.
Ooh, John
It was a
Don's.
lot of fun. Also similarly kind of creepy in a way. Like it's going a new direction. It almost kind of seems like when he was on Mars, he was sort of a crooked cop, which is kind of the route they're going, which I really like. And we also found out how the Martians
Disappeared.
copulate.
And
Yeah.
nice. I'm reading this one.
Yeah, dude.
Boom, boom,
I mean,
boom.
it's gross.
Let me hear you say Ayo.
Not like that. Not like that. Anyway,
Boom, boom,
so yeah,
boom. Let me hear
Manderson,
you say Ayo.
get on the mic and tell me what you read.
Get on the mic,
Well,
Madison.
last week my brother and I talked about the Long Halloween.
Yeah.
So I read that. For that, check out the episode. We only made it through issue 7, so check that out. And then I think I finished the Image comic Red.
How was that?
It was not Red. Shanghai Red.
Oh, how was that?
That was very good.
I want to read
It's
that.
so good. It's just check it out. It's it's great. I can't think of any other descriptors. Awesome, fantastic, great, amazing. Read the book.
Do it.
Read the book.
Do it.
And also read the Long Halloween. Finish
Also
it,
good.
and then
Yeah,
when we come
looking
back to
at it.
part 2, you'll be caught up.
Perfect.
Good job.
I think that's all I read. Oh, and I read the reading assignment. Amy, what'd you read?
Hey.
So, I did the reading assignment. Let's start there. But I went as far back as I started on the roots of Swamp Thing. So I started at the beginning.
Extra credit.
Yeah, that was an accident.
72.
That was fantastic, and Barry
Way to
got really
find why.
excited when I started spouting about how wonderful it was and what I liked about it. And then, even though I'm not a horror comic person, que bella. And then I did the reading assignment, which was 20 through 27. I jumped in that 20, even though technically it's 21 to 20.
Exactly. They talk about that.
27?
How we'll talk about that in the assignment. How 20
So that
always
was Saga
left
the
out.
Swamp Thing. That anatomy lesson. That's probably one of the single best comics I've read. Like as just a standalone, you could just leave it there. It was beautiful. And then I read some internet comics.
Read internet.
Well,
I
there's-
like the internet.
I like the internet.
Krakozia.
It's very nice.
Krakozia.
Yes, Krakozia.
Something.
So I actually have an app called Webtoons, and it has something called Lore Olympus. It's a webcomic that comes out every single Sunday, and it's retelling currently the story of Persephone and Hades.
Ooh.
And it is adorable. Like I can't.
Was it going to be amazing or no? It's adorable.
It's so good. Persephone is like the colors for each of them are so striking, and then it takes real care and like evaluating the story and not just being like, hey, he trapped her in the underworld. Like it builds this entire outside sequence and her deal with her mom and all these other gods, and the color is beautiful and the art is beautiful, and it's like one of the number one like read comics on this app.
Nice.
And so I loves it.
Loves it.
I loves it.
loves it.
But yes, I
Sweet.
think I'm set.
All right. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go on our next segment.
Okay.
I'm going to try to quickly tone down the sound on it
Do you want me to tell you?
because I know and it's going to blow up. But after we talk about all that, speaking of all the Brightburn and stuff, I think we need to talk about some news. I just dropped it down. Oh, I apologize if I blew out any eardrums. It sounded okay on my end, and then I realized that it was not.
Yeah.
Is it okay?
Oh boy. Oh no.
I brought it down though. Is it okay when I brought it down?
When you brought it down, it was just like you had that crescendo.
Yeah.
You're like decrescendo, decrescendo,
Exactly.
decrescendo.
Excitement. Decrescendo.
We're gonna fix that, you guys.
I already fixed it. And I'll fix it in post. You two won't even know what we're talking about.
Term for whatever the inverse of a crescendo is. I don't know what it is though.
Yes.
It's not a diminuendo, decrescendo.
No, crescendo, decrescendo. Yeah.
Yeah, and I said it right.
It's just decrescendo?
Yeah.
Oh,
A diminuendo is just,
Diminuendo is like light and like.
Yep.
Anyway,
we could do this all day.
Spyro, we know it was loud. God, that was loud. My bad. I fixed it. Okay.
Spyro, I'm listening
Sorry.
to it simultaneously too. So
Yeah.
just
So Amy took that hit.
I did it all for you.
In the news this week.
Ah, yes, reporting live.
Yeah, reporting live.
On the TCC,
Smocking guns.
Smocking.
I mean,
Smocking?
smoking guns.
Smoking guns.
So in the news this week, Black Panther nominated for awards across the board. The
All day,
latest
or
one,
day.
12 Critics' Choice Awards and 8 Grammys.
How many
for
Golden
the
Globes?
soundtrack.
Yes.
How many Golden Globes was it?
4.
I thought it was 4.
One being the best picture.
Yeah.
First comic book for Golden Globes.
Yeah, and a lot of people are, of course, like, oh, it's not a drama, and it's. I mean,
It turned out
I'm of the
great.
mindset that we need like an action adventure like category. Like, I don't
Was
like.
it not in the action adventure category? Because Ready Player One got for 2, which was visuals, and I thought it was for action.
Right. Well, but like,
But for best film.
but best film is
best action.
Best action. Yeah, there's best drama, best comedy, but like
Okay.
there needs to be like a best like fantasy adventure. Like,
Because like the Oscars, you get best film, and that's
The big,
everything.
that's the all day or
The
day.
Golden Globes, they're more of like the party, and so the way they categorize things is ridiculous because The Martian was put in as a comedy, and
Yeah.
while Matt Damon has some funny lines, it's not really a comedy. It's about a guy stuck on Mars.
Yeah.
So
could be a
they have a
comedy if
history
you're
of
a
doing
sadist.
that, huh?
if you're a sadist, there you go.
Point.
So Black Panther is nominated for a ton of awards.
We're so
if-
proud of you, Black
If
Panther.
you see an article about it, don't read the comments.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
don't, because it's just, even if you disagree, even if you're like, I don't think it needs to win the awards, don't be racist. Just don't be racist.
Yeah.
Why is that such a hard concept?
Why did it have to go to
Don't
that?
be racist.
We still need to.
Oh,
we
wait,
need to
the
put
title says Black Panther. I know why this is nominated.
So are we going to hoist up a poll so we can get our airing of the grievances for our Festivus?
For the rest of us,
Yes.
We'll have an airing of grievances. We will.
we
What-
will.
Shouldn't we, when does Festivus actually take place?
Ooh.
In Seinfeld.
Google?
Yeah,
Thank you,
Google.
Google.
Because I feel like that'd be like good for like the best to worst. Like the best worst of the year. Have the dames on. We can all air some grievances.
There's so many grievances to
Down,
air.
but
Meanwhile,
so many grievances.
in other words,
in other worlds.
Ooh.
December 23rd.
Okay, there we go. Elseworlds has begun. Elseworlds
According
debuted
to
last night with Flash. Yeah.
Yes.
Elseworlds, of course, we've got Flash as Green Arrow. Green Arrow as Flash. We've got Batwoman. We've got Superman in the black suit. We've got 90s Flash. I'm not watching it, but it looks fun.
We have a quote from a friend of ours and somewhat fan of the show, Ken Mendoza,
Ken,
who says
he's in trouble.
Ruby Rose is badass.
That's the way we do it.
Badass because she plays Batwoman in this crossover.
Yet to
we
be
have
seen.
that.
Oh, breaking news! It is cold in Seattle. Thanks, Spyro.
Hey, Spyro.
By the way, I'm sorry. Black Panther 3 Golden Globes, Best Motion Picture Drama, Best Original Score, and Best Original Song. All the stars Kendrick Lamar.
Good for Kendrick Lamar.
And then and then of course, like I said, the soundtrack.
Yeah.
8 Grammys.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be.
By the
really
way, he's also a Nobel Peace Prize Pulitzer. Excuse me, Pulitzer Prize winner.
Yes, he
Kendrick
should
Lamar.
be. In other news, besides the Elseworlds, in the other realm of DC, Aquaman's doing really well in China.
Apparently.
Nice.
It's
good.
all because I hear he's all wet,
Yeah.
It's Momoa. He's always wet.
And I
slightly
feel,
moist on all occasions.
I feel like the
he
Chinese
was in that
market.
SNL skit too.
I feel like the Chinese market is like always really hard to gauge because
Yes.
it'll either be like, you know, their entire population goes and sees it and it's a huge number, or they ban it and it's like, well, it doesn't mean it's doing bad. It just means you're not getting billions of dollars in revenue because no one's seeing it in China.
So Aquaman does nothing to anger the Chinese government.
Yeah, they like Polynesian fishmen.
Yeah, they do. They like him.
They also like Dolph Lundgren.
Did that
They
too.
do.
Yeah, that's actually
He's still Ivan Drago over there.
yeah.
Dolph Lundgren? Yeah, he's
Well,
he's a
if
thing.
we're
I mean,
going-
I like Korea really likes who's the basketball player, the eccentric basketball player.
Oh, you're talking about Dennis Rodman.
Dennis
Rodman.
Rodman.
Yeah. Korea likes Dennis Rodman.
North Korea
China
likes Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, North Korea.
likes Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, South Korea is like
They're more of a Jordan guy. They like Jordan.
They're more like a Pippen or a Bibby.
We like Pippen. We like Scotty.
I like Scottie Pippen.
Who does it?
Scotty.
Meanwhile, if we were trying to roll out, can we talk about this next bit of news? Because it makes me so excited. I just cannot hide it.
I'm
so excited. And I just can't hide it.
I'm doing this for all the clips, you guys. You know this.
Lose control and I think I like it. What we're seeing,
Autobots, roll out.
Roll out, transform, and roll out. Bumblebee is being called the best Transformers movie yet.
How about that?
How about that? John Cena.
No.
John Cena.
No, it is not John Cena that is getting all the accolades on this junction.
Says you.
I had two dames that saw it.
Two dames.
Two dames that saw it.
Two dames
with
in the
prizes.
hand and then one in the bush.
You're gonna have to redact that later. They saw it, and it's actually Angela Bassett has been the standout.
She's in it?
Yeah.
Isn't she the main character?
Is she Angela Bassett? I always see the girl, the young girl who has Bumblebee. I always see her.
No, that's Haley Steinfeld.
No, never mind. I'm getting mixed up.
But Angela Bassett is
Angela
one of the
Bassett.
Transformers.
Oh, she's a Transformer. Wait, what mom?
T'Challa's mom.
She's
Black
tall.
Panther.
She's the she's
duh.
The one who should be
She's our
Storm.
beautiful Storm.
Yeah,
She who should have been Storm.
I'm an idiot. I'm sorry.
So, but it is to quote one of our pure, like straight from the Transformer fans, and we have one in the Dames.
Yeah.
This is bar none her favorite Transformers movie to date,
That's
and
great to
she's
hear.
like, "I will protect it. Like, if you hurt my baby, I will murder you."
I did hear this
is
is like the Transformers movies that Transformers fans wanted, like way
it
back.
goes
when the
back.
first
She
time.
said within the first couple of minutes, and this isn't spoilers. The first couple of minutes, you're getting to Generation 1, so you were seeing and you're able to tell. For like when we watched it, when you still knew who
because
was.
he's still he's the Volkswagen Bug, not the Camaro.
Well, and everything looked cleaner. Like the robots looked
Exactly.
simpler. Like the Transformers themselves looked simpler, which made because the other ones were just so over the top and audacious, and visually you couldn't see what was going on.
And
then when they
Antic Fire says that it was Garbo.
yeah, and when they showed Bumblebee like in the trailer, I was like, oh, I can at least I can differentiate his parts, which I think is important in this.
No, I forgot. Antic Fire is a hardcore Transformers fan too.
I
That would
like
help.
Transformers. I'm not a hardcore fan, but I love everything about it. I just haven't done a lot of into the depths of the reading and the things.
I take it this is a prequel.
Prequel.
So before Bumblebee met Shia's character, this is way
Right.
Okay,
This
gotcha.
is
This
when
is not a
John
wiki.
Cena was in the military.
before Josh Duhamel was there.
No more Wickwiki.
No more Wickwiki. No more Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
So
Takes place in
Because-
the 80s, right?
because-
They got the other Mark.
It
John
does.
Cena.
But
they got
you-
the other Mark.
Yeah.
Do you know what else Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch has to do?
What?
They like to stretch. They stretch. So
You know what else is a stretch? That
it's
segue.
Yes, it is.
But
Calvin
it
Klein
goes
underwear.
in perfectly into our next topic. There is a Plastic Man movie now in development at Warner Brothers. Right?
They're-
I'm excited
they're
for that.
stretching.
They are stretching. Of course, Plastic Man recently re-entered the DC comic universe via Gail Simone. Is that a miniseries? Is that ongoing?
It's not. It's done. Miniseries.
Okay, no one could give me a clear answer.
It was fantastic. Read it.
Read it. I was really enjoying it.
And Manderson, that's not the guy who was on last season of Flash, right? That's
No,
someone
that's
else. completely.
It's Elastigman.
Elastigman. Thank you.
No,
no,
Plastic
no.
Man is the one with the glasses, the swoop, and
Plastic
the.
Man and the elongated man. That's his name.
Elongated
elongated
Man.
man.
Yeah,
That's what they
Plastic
call
Man. I have no idea. The thing about Plastic Man is imagine like Mr. Fantastic powers, but not a genius, more of a criminal and goofball,
Gotcha.
depending on which iteration you're reading.
I have some friends like that.
Sometimes very serious. Yeah. Are you talking about us?
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're okay.
What's
You
that
guys are all geniuses.
Oh, that being said, hey, so
one
let's go
time.
down to
Only one of us is really a genius here.
let's go down to South
There's a
America.
strict way.
Go to Brazil.
Right.
yes.
Are we talking about Brazil? Are we talking about Brazil Comic-Con? Brazil Comic-Con.
com ele.
Capoeira.
Vamos dançar também.
Capoeira.
Falar português com
Brasil.
Linguiça também. Chouriço. Sorry.
I thought we were talking about Brazil Comic Con.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, I had to throw the
Exactly.
He actually pulled
Thank
out
you.
Brazilian Portuguese. I pulled out the character who was the capoeira instructor from Bob's Burger, who's just like, ha, Brazil.
Vamos dizer.
Brazil.
Capoeira, senhor. Vamos.
Oh my gosh. Okay, keep
Anyway,
going.
so Spider-Man trailer for
For
the movie.
Tom Holland.
Yes, the Tom Holland one, not the current one in theaters. Debuted at Brazil Comic-Con, and then the worldwide release was delayed. So we have not yet gotten a Spider-Man Far From Home trailer, but it did debut at Brazil Comic-Con, and
Which they
people
do.
are stoked.
Which our hometown girl, Miss Brie Lawson, was down there doing
Brazil.
some marveling.
Brasil, estás vendo?
All right, and last piece of news, because we need to get going. Brian K. Vaughan, yes, writer of
I
Saga,
know.
has
I love
signed a
this
deal,
news.
an exclusive 3-year deal with Legendary. So kind of confusing.
Legendary is coming back. They have finally come back. It's
And
so
they're,
exciting.
and so they don't own any of it. They own no like content. Like he would still own the rights to it. But
Maybe they do Private Eye. Ooh, that would be really good.
there's a lot of good stuff they could do. But like they're talking about Why the Last Man, but Why the Last Man is currently in development at FX.
Yep.
So that's kind of doesn't make any sense. But there is
He's
rumblings.
got so much stuff.
There is rumblings
I
that
know.
Saga is an early stage of development,
It would
which
explain
I
the hiatus.
do not like that idea.
But it would
Reminds me of,
explain the
like, our earlier
hiatus.
I
conversations on
don't want this
show.
to happen because
explains the
Saga
hiatus.
is so perfect. Saga is so perfect, yet on such a grand scale that I don't think CGI or animatronics could do it justice.
Agreed.
That's the
It's
first thing I
gorgeous.
thought of when I read that, because you guys been saying that for years now, that Saga shouldn't be a show.
Nope.
'Cause we
Also-
What if they didn't do a live action show with CG? It was all animated or all CG. And
That
that's
might
how
actually
they
be
did
what it needs.
Hmm.
That might be
TVMA
by
animated.
like a team. Yeah. Good call.
Producers of what's with the studio?
Saga? Legendary.
Yeah, Legendary. If you're watching this,
Wait,
we got ideas.
I thought Legendary's been doing well. Have they been
They've
bad
been doing
lately?
well.
Okay.
They took a break from being in Hall H, and this is from all the people that I
you mean the
consistently.
con. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So they haven't come out and done a lot of other things. I believe, aren't they on Pikachu? The
Yeah,
Detective
they've
Pikachu?
produced a lot of major
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
They've done some great work, so that's really exciting.
Nice.
Now
And
our last
also,
bit of news.
Thank you for my compliment on my sweater, by the way. I
yeah.
got to see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and
Which we're not talking about, but that will be on the Game
can't.
Patrol
It's
episode.
it's
But
humana.
before any of that, before we get to our main topic,
I
we
have
have
to
one
actually
more
turn
piece
this
of
off.
news. Amy
Oh, yeah.
needs to watch a certain trailer, a
Yes.
certain Avengers film. So Amy, go ahead and cue it up. Whenever you're ready, go ahead and start
Hold
it.
on. Well, so can I explain this before I even start it?
Sure.
So, a while back we had the concept because I constantly get not shush but aggressively eye rolled at. Yeah, pretty much a lot of that sound when we talk about movies that I haven't seen. So tonight it was Scrooged. I've seen part of Apollo 13. I have not seen all of it. Yes. It's going to be worse if I say I haven't seen Schindler's List, but I can't handle. I literally can't handle it.
Oh, well, I understand that.
That I literally
That I can understand.
family can't handle it.
Yeah, you're aware of it. It's just too
Yeah,
close to
I
home.
can't handle it.
I understand.
So I did a couple of episodes where I was trying to figure out how to do it on Twitch. If you follow me on my personal Twitch, you can see clips of me watching Halloween, which was Steve's favorite moment. I also watched Clerks and a couple of them.
today.
I know, it was good.
Twitch kept making it harder and
I
harder.
know, it's making it so much harder. But so when Infinity Wars came out, I waited to watch the trailer with the guys. So we did it live on the air, and I have been withholding. This is like abstaining from insanity
This is your minor Lent.
since 5 a.m. when this dropped into our
Friday morning.
yeah. And mind you, I have been sent so many. I need you to watch these. Antic Fires.
edits.
Antic Fires at like 3 of them. He goes, I don't know if you've seen this, but you need to watch these. I'm like, I can't.
I haven't watched the trailer
I
yet.
can't. I haven't watched the trailer. So they're going to probably do a running commentary because I'm going to literally put this in my head and what is Spyro yelling at me about?
What? How? Why?
With lots of exclamation points and question marks.
What? How? Why?
Exactly.
That was good.
Yeah, that was
Well,
pretty good.
so-
Yeah. So
You guys can do commentary
Go
and you
for
can
it.
stare at the screen.
We're gonna
but-
let you science theater
so
this.
I got 2 minutes and 25 seconds of
2
me
minutes,
being
25 we can fill
silent
that.
and or making odd noises.
Avengers 4 Endgame trailer. Amy was not able. Well, we made her not watch
Yeah.
it. So Amy,
Well,
whenever you're
actually,
ready,
Manderson requested that I
Yes, he did, yeah.
For a proper Jane and scene.
go
Made
for
a
it.
suggestion.
Here she goes.
Hey, brace yourself.
Here she goes.
So yeah. So how about them Cowboys?
Well, they're on a streak, aren't
Yeah.
they? They're doing pretty
Are they?
good. Yeah, I heard they're doing pretty good.
How
yeah.
are the Vikings doing?
Yeah. Oh,
We fired our coach. Don't worry about it. But
Wait,
but
they
Aaron,
fired their coach?
yeah, but yeah, we fired McCarthy. But then we went. How does it always happen? We always manage to fire our coach. Well, a team always manages to fire their coach and then win the next game.
Right.
really well. And then Aaron Rodgers breaks the record for.
She's seeing the ship in the middle of space.
Ooh,
Oh, yeah.
breaks the record for
Tony's
most
back.
consecutive pass attempts without an interception.
It's not Tony anymore, or is it?
Oh yeah, what do we? Oh, did you see the? I sent it to you.
That was a beautiful
Still
thing.
Tony.
I didn't send you that edit, did I?
Oh,
Where-
that
where
was so
it's
good.
this message, but it's the scene from Iron Man 3 where Pepper puts on the helmet.
Oh no.
So they edit it so she's putting on the helmet and then she hears Tony's voice.
Yeah.
It's
Dude,
Oh,
it's the
yeah.
feels. It's the
Yeah.
feels.
Now the Marvel Studios thing is snapping away.
Nice.
Antic Fire, did you send the one I sent? You saw it, the Logan one? Did you not see that, the Logan one? I need to show you guys where they cut that with the Logan, the I Hurt Myself song.
No.
Yeah, they cut it with the Logan track.
Cap's crying.
And they cut out a bunch of the audio, and it's we're gonna have to watch. We're gonna have to watch that next.
Banner's upset that Ant-Man's missing.
Shuri and Spider-Man also.
Also,
Oh my
yeah.
god.
Yeah. I see. They didn't show Shuri disappearing. So I'm like, I'm wondering if she's
Ronin
underground, like working on like her own Black Panther gear to do her brother's.
And by the way,
memory.
Clint, his family, they're all gone.
Yeah, they better be dead.
They're dead.
Or, I mean, why else would he be doing that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are they better? We don't want them. to be,
That's what we think.
I mean, I feel like if just one of my family members was gone and I had that kind of skill set, I'd probably
I would also go to an Asian country and start attacking
just
Yakuza.
slicing people up.
That seems like he's fighting.
It does, yeah.
We got the logo and the official title.
Yes.
Like Matters are giving us the play
Stay
by
there.
play.
Post-credit scene, kind of.
What is the post? What?
It's
Ant-Man?
Ant-Man.
Oh
Front
yeah.
door.
Yeah.
You must be
in Germany.
We met
I
in
got real
Germany.
big.
That's me.
Ant-Man. You remember Ant-Man?
You buzz me in. I love the meme of where it shows Captain
that makes
Marvel
so much sense. The person
and
we
it
thought
shows
we were gonna
Ant-Man
be.
side by side.
Who you thought's gonna save the universe?
Who really is gonna save the
universe?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. It was so first off, I was like, Tony talking to Pepper, I'm like, why are you alone drifting in space? Okay, so that didn't make any sense to me, but I know it will because he's stubborn and be like, go away, Nebula, I don't need you.
Or this could be somewhere else in the movie. You don't know if it's the beginning.
Who knows?
Perhaps.
That's the
but
other thing it could be.
then I'm also running up against the what happened to the beard? Was that part of the snap?
50% of his facial hair
50% of his facial hair.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I guess my as well.
He dropped the undercover look. I don't know.
I don't know.
I think because you said he's got like the Winter Soldier gear back, so I think it's almost kind of like him stepping out of the shadows.
Yeah.
Includes shaving.
Hairstyle is still like not as long, but still kind of longer than it's been before.
It's
Yeah,
longer.
it's longer.
Yeah.
Seeing the Hook guy do his
Guy.
do
That
his
look,
thing.
his
the look.
face.
He looks fantastic.
He looks sad.
He's distraught. He's you know,
Well, you know how many were in his brood, which means half of his brood is gone.
At least.
if
At
not
least,
all.
if not all.
Yeah, it could be all of them.
So it was unexpected. The holy trinity of chorale music started to become off-putting right there at the end, and then freaking Paul Rudd.
Is this old video?
Paul Rudd.
No, this is the front door.
Paul Rudd. So time loops. Everybody good.
And I did yell Kunu when I saw
Kunu!
that. I yelled Kunu. And there were some comments.
from London?
Oh my gosh, it was fantastic.
Some
it
people made
was,
some comments about, and I brought this up during Sunday Coffee with my brother-in-law, about how Tony has been in a cave and he's been able to get himself out of it. He's been in a garage in part 3 and rebuilt his suit. But there's like other factors here. One, he's in space. He's running out of food.
No, he
water,
doesn't know how to do
air.
it. He's drifting. He's not
He's
even
drifting.
That was the biggest thing when he said, "I'm drifting in space," and I was just like, okay, so this is there is essentially for him, he has exhausted all of his resources. There is no other way to do this,
And
you don't know if he's even technically talking to Pepper. Like, I don't even want to get down that pipe, like that little boop boop boop.
And take into consideration the thing he's been trying to stop for the past 6 years
Succeeded.
happened. He failed.
It happened.
It happened.
Yeah.
And the
He's not
closest
there.
thing he's
Yeah.
had to a son, a protege,
Oh yeah.
when he said
In a
in
baggie.
Spider-Man Homecoming, when he said, "What happens? Something happens to you. That's
He's
on
dead.
me. That's on me, and I can't have that. It just happened."
well, also
So
you have
Tony's
to.
defeated.
Well, you also have to think too that he doesn't know about anybody on Earth.
Yeah, he doesn't know
All
what
he
happened
knows is he doesn't know if him and Cap finally had that makeup or all of his. He's bearing
the
all of
Avengers are dead.
the regret of being alone in space in a vacuum, essentially. So he is either
He's
one going to
defeated.
come back completely tortured and in disbelief, or he's going to go into hermit mode.
That scene makes perfect sense.
Which would work great because there was a comic book that they did, which was 1792, where everybody was in the Wild West and it was the Avengers, and he was the town mechanic, but he was drunk. Oh, he's the blacksmith.
makes sense.
Oh, it was so good. It was so
Anyway.
good. Anyway,
You approved?
yeah. Now I can watch all the other cuts.
Yeah,
Also,
got it.
that was really hilarious right at the end.
The Logan one. Gotta watch the Logan one.
You buzz me in.
Can you buzz me? Hey, can you buzz me in?
We're from Germany. Scott, like,
Remember the airport?
Ant-Man. You remember Ant-Man?
Is this old footage? Like the disbelief on his face. Is this old footage?
He's like,
It was very. Steve's like, are we sure we want to do this?
Scott's excited and annoyed at the same time that he can't get in. You can buzz me. Remember? Buzz me in.
Avengers.
All right. So
All
thank
right.
you. I am now.
Boom.
There.
Welcome.
It has been done.
There it is. On to our main topic.
Here we go.
For the evening. So we just set some background.
That's my green foliage.
We've been doing reading assignments again here for a while. We'd stopped for a little bit. So what happened?
What happened was
We were doing reading assignments all the time, and we would let different person pick each time. And so the last one before we stopped that I picked was Alan Moore's Saga of the Swamp Thing, Volume 1. And I don't know what everyone's excuses were. It was,
I wasn't there. I
you,
have
weren't-
the
you,
perfect.
you two weren't there. He's the
We
only
are-
one who was
you're
there.
purged.
I mean, I'd read it, and you're like, "Hey, you should come on the show." I'm like, "I'll be there," and then it never
And it
happened.
never happened. That was the second time we tried to do the reading assignment. That's the worst part. We had tried to do it before. And it's not because it's not good, because clearly it's great. Yeah, it would. Yeah. So, our reading assignment picked by me, Saga of the Swamp Thing, Volume 1. So, right out the gate, this book was written in the 80s, 1982, I believe, to be exact. The original run started in the early 70s. So, Swamp Thing originally was created as part of a horror magazine where it basically told the story about a Victorian scientist who was betrayed by his friend and came back as a swamp creature to get his revenge. That's what Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson pitched it as to DC editors at the time. They then wanted to bring it back, but Bernie and Len did not want to keep telling that story because they loved that story, thought it was perfect. And they basically came up with the idea, well, let's take that concept but flash it forward. Let's do a modern scientist doing modern work and create the Swamp Thing. So we had the original run of Swamp Thing, Len Wein, Bernie Wrightson, who both unfortunately passed away in the last couple of years. After they had done a run there, part of it actually coincided with the Swamp Thing movie that Wes Anderson did. Wes Anderson in that, and they basically came back to DC and they're like, hey, we should do another Swamp Thing run. This is after Len Wein had gone to Marvel and created Wolverine and all these other things. He was doing pretty good for himself. And so they came back and they did another small run of Swamp Thing. And then it got to a point where Bernie Wrightson no longer was committed to it. And once Bernie Wrightson was gone, Len Wein kind of drifted off as well. So he tried to find a replacement. So he got the artist at the time, Tom Yates, he got his two assistants to take over as artists, and they're both very talented. And then he could not find an American writer to take over the story. So he went across the pond and found a young upstart wizard man.
Hello.
Named Alan Moore.
I'm a wizard.
Who had written 2000 AD, and he'd written Berserker, I believe, was another one he'd written.
He also loved the old American comics.
Yes.
I love old American comics.
Okay.
Wow.
Alan Moore's in the room, I guess.
I'm
So,
channeling what's his name from last podcast on the left.
oh yeah, where he just like comes in,
Zabrowski.
he's just like, yes. So that basically that sets up Saga of the Swamp Thing Volume 1, which is actually issue 20 through 27 of Swamp Thing. So the first issue was called Loose Ends, both figuratively and literally, because Alan Moore now had to he had to bridge the gap. He had to tie up the loose ends of the previous writer.
Literally just loose ends.
And then in the comic, there were loose ends from the previous story.
Most of the mysticism was solved.
Yes. And like you had mentioned earlier, that originally in the original like trades and stuff, you only got 21 through 27. They did not include loose ends. Loose ends was not considered part of the story because the story actually started on issue 21. But issue 20 set up everything. It wrapped up where some characters had gone, where some characters were going, and introduced us to this new world that Alan Moore was creating.
Very well.
Good job.
That was nicely
There he
done.
is.
I
There's a guy.
picked this book. Swamp Thing is one of my favorite comic book characters ever.
If you can't tell.
What gave me away?
I don't know.
You're
The hair. The hair.
Thanks for introducing me to Swamp Thing again.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And Alan Moore is one of the most prolific comic writers in history. He went off the deep end and he's done some weird stuff.
That I am.
But he's phenomenal. As a horror writer, he's second to none. And Swamp Thing was just a beautiful retelling of Bernie Wrightson and Len Wein's story into the modern era. So let's begin right there. What'd you guys think? Did you like it?
Yes.
Oh,
well,
of course.
how about do we want to talk to the side of the table that's do we want to talk to the side of the table that's not horror people?
Yeah,
Hi.
Hey.
Because we know a horror man would like this
Yeah,
book.
You know. Yeah.
Andy, do you want to go first?
Shunned.
Shun.
Well,
Go into silence.
I thought it was great. David, I don't remember how you convinced me to read this 3 years ago or something like that.
He threw you in the
3 years
locker
ago.
and said, "Read this now."
Yeah, that's what happened.
Read this, nerd, or I'm not letting you out.
He
Yeah.
did not let me out until I finished the entire,
Took a while.
all the trades.
All 6 volumes.
He did, thankfully, occasionally a few French fries and like a
That was a
cracker.
puddle.
yeah. But I remember I started reading it, and I think the first couple of pages, I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a little rough. It's not what I'm used to. But once I got into the rhythm, and then reading it again now, I just remember like, oh man, this issue was so good. Oh man, this issue was so good. Oh man, this issue was so good. And it's like, where's the bad stuff? And in volume 1, there's not really
There isn't any
anything
bad stuff.
bad.
Yeah.
Everything it's phenomenally written. There's a lot of really creative ways of setting up pages and kind of doing this kind of mirroring pages that would be facing each other that I thought were fantastic. The art style, like it feels like it's 70s and 80s art style, but that's not necessarily at all a bad thing. I like you get super good detail up close, and you kind of get this not obscured, but it's not as detailed as you get far away. And so to me, it opened up like your ability to fill in the gaps with your own imagination, especially in a horror style book. There's a lot of stuff like, okay, I'm going to fill that in with something super creepy. And so it was great. We've all kind of alluded to that the anatomy lesson, issue 21, was fantastic.
Yeah.
Amy.
Definitely. I'm going to try not to lean into the mic because my mic can actually pick me up without leaning. And you can see me over it if I talk. Yeah, all you're going to see is a big that. Anyway.
What?
It was an amazing read. I am not one for horror comic books right off the bat. The art styling reminded me very much of Sandman, the original startup. Nice. It wasn't too much, but it still maintained because I had gone back and, as I said, I had read the roots of Swamp Thing. So I started at the beginning, which gave these overtones of like it should be a radio play. It was spooky, and it mirrored this great dynamic that I could hear the radio players in my head. And in reading this, like I said, Anatomy Lesson, which is issue 21, is stunning. It is just creepy enough. It balances right on that edge of not, when we had to talk about, if you watch Halloween, and we have to talk about what is horror. Horror is supposed to increase your level of anxiety, increase your levels of suspense. And this does it in such a minor way that it retains the hooks in you. So when you're reading volume 1, you feel comfortable. Also, one of my favorite people actually ends up, right towards the end of volume 1. He's
click.
Gone,
I'm
the son of
thinking
man.
the old man right now.
No, not the old man. Not the
I
old
know,
man.
I'm just
Not in
quoting
21.
Anatomy. Anatomy, sorry.
Yeah, when he's pounding on the glass with his wrinkled hands.
I wonder if there'll be blood.
It's blood that doesn't matter. It's the dying.
Who's the person at the end?
At the very end of volume 1?
Yeah.
Etrigan.
Oh, okay.
I really like Etrigan. If you can't see my stack under Hilda, but I have Roots of the Swamp Thing, and I have Etrigan, and then I have Adventure Time. I'm sorry. So it happened. But this spoke to me in such a very unique way that I felt naturally compelled. I was literally I could zoom straight through it, and I retained everything. The writing was, I think I mentioned this to you guys earlier. I was like, why did the wizard go crazy? This is so good.
Yeah.
Like it's
it gets boring being normal.
It's stunning because it goes from just from Swamp Thing, Alec Holland, just being sad, to he's poetic. He's like Hamlet, and it's this search for consciousness
with himself.
Yes, and it's so insanely good. And then we get Abby on top of it, and there's so many great. And we could talk about Woodrow. Yeah, it's Woodrow. Woodrue.
Woodrue.
Yeah. Woodrue, which is
the Floronic Man.
There it is.
which was
A plant master.
it was really awkward. And then I agree with you. We were having a talk about the family in the house. There's all of these sequences and panels, and the storyline moves so stinking smoothly, and it maintains itself so well that you will not get lost. Even if you're not one for words, or you're like these and thous and those, they're not in there. It turns into this just great exploration of consciousness and of
Bears
self,
and Batista.
and it's so fantastic.
These are the people I needed on this freaking show
You're welcome.
3 years ago.
Oh.
4 years ago.
Oh, I
mean,
see.
you now, because you actually read it this time.
Also, Antic says, "Dang, I'm gonna have to reread this."
Yeah, you're gonna have
you
to
do.
reread this run.
It's
Steve,
meaty.
what do you think?
It's like a. I'm not a drinker, but I equate it to like a fine aged alcohol of some kind. It's like when you flip through my copy of it, and you smell the pages, and they're just.
It's unctuous.
Oh, unctuous is such a good word to
I know.
describe it, and the
It's-
story itself
Googling.
is
It-
so much to just.
It's meaty.
to
It's
chew on.
unctuous and meaty. Yeah. Well, and also you're talking about somebody who I love words and I love books and I love writers, and finding something, which we had this talk about Alan Moore prior because it was one of the very first episodes I ever did with you guys. Was Writer No More
When he retired.
when he retired.
But he still hasn't
Going-
actually retired.
But going back and being able to see this and see something that was so meticulously cared for and developed, and that has withstood, even with his cray-cray, that has withstood and is so honest to a character that I think Len Wein would be proud.
So when Len Wein called Alan Moore to offer him the job, Alan Moore actually hung up on him.
I don't know
because
what
He thought it was a joke.
thought it was a joke, and then Len Wein had to explain for like 15 minutes how he was actually Len Wein, and he actually wanted him to write it. And Alan Moore said, "Okay, cool. Give me a couple days to think about it." And he called him back and he said, "Cool, I will do it, but I want to make changes to your character."
want
Which is
then. I
which
don't
is-
like how you have it now. I want to do it myself.
That's why 21 is so. Reading 20 gives you the opportunity to be like, okay, what's happening? But it sets everything up for 21, and it's why when Manderson's like, where does it start? It's like 20. It starts at issue 20.
That original origin you had of him.
It
Then
was
we'll-
Because it didn't change. The beautiful thing is they didn't change like on its surface.
Nope.
They basically just went deeper into it. They went underneath the fleshy green skin.
You mean they went below the topsoil?
Below the topsoil. We're gonna try to not make a lot of plant references.
I can't
tonight.
help it. I am all about that
I
green.
wanted to cultivate the character.
There you go, Steve. Now you're the horror guy. Like I'm
Yeah.
not necessarily
What
a
did you think?
big horror guy, but I obviously love horror comics.
Before this,
Yes.
all I knew of Swamp Thing was the way he looks, certain essence of him, and his little appearances that I saw in the latest run of Constantine. I think there was something where him and Batman recently helped each
Yeah.
other out. Something with Gotham that Swamp Thing had to help out. I knew very little about the guy. I knew his name because of you. I knew who Alec Holland was because of that.
It's not like he plays him on D&D or anything.
Well, yeah. Reading this. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Swamp Thing is deeper than I ever thought he was. I knew there was environmental aspect to
Because
him.
them roots.
Because the roots into the soil there. No.
Now you're kind of getting into your Christian Bale together.
We must work together.
Yeah, there you go. Let's not go that route.
So the personal aspect of Swamp Thing, the deeper psyche, the emotional aspect of it, something I knew nothing about, was so well done in this. The horror aspect, as you're referring to, is right there. The anxiousness, the slow build, you're reaching this certain point. Where is this going?
The Monkey King.
The Monkey King.
Seriously.
Yes. Oh.
Let me kiss your hand.
Yeah.
Let me be
Now-
my master.
Ugh.
I thought of that horrible Super Bowl commercial. I think it's Doritos or Pepsi, where it's Monkey Baby.
It's Puppy Monkey Baby.
Puppy, yeah, that's what I thought of. I'm like,
I had it sang
is that
to
where
me
the
for
idea from?
years.
Did they read Swamp Thing? Is that
Puppy
what
Monkey
this?
Baby. Puppy Monkey Baby.
Just made him
Puppy
dancing
Monkey
instead of killing.
Yeah.
So well done. Alan Moore, the crazy wizard that he is, continues to show why, for me, as reading it, why he's so great at what he does, what he did. I read, Watchmen, Killing Joke, and now this. It's a fantastic story. Amazing. It's so in depth. Great build to it. Great horror story. Thank you, David Barry.
You're welcome. So let's talk about the themes, because obviously the big theme throughout the entire it goes on throughout the majority of the volumes, but this one, especially with the anatomy lesson, focuses on this idea of humanity. And because Alec Holland, his whole thing, for those of you who don't know the original story behind the Swamp Thing, spoilers from the 80s and 70s. He's a scientist working on what is called a biorestorative formula. It's basically for bringing back dead crops. He's working on it with his wife. And of course, secret organizations, thank you, want to be
all up in that.
Halves in it.
What?
They wants to be halves in it.
That never happens.
So they threaten him when he doesn't respond well. They plant a bomb in his laboratory.
Nice guys.
Great guys. So basically what happens is Alec Holland gets blown up, and he also gets covered in the biorestorative formula, like dives into the swamp, disappears into the muck, comes out as the Swamp Thing. So for the first 20 or so issues, he's basically like, okay, cool. I'm now covered in this. I am now transformed by this. I need to figure out how to get back. And that's like, cool, I'm going to get back. I'm going to be a human, but I'm going to have to fight some bad guys. I'm going to have to, beat this weird, chaotic wizard character who has weird feelings for his family.
Not cool like that.
Yeah. Basically, Alan Moore kind of takes that and he turns it on his head, because that search for his humanity continues. And it's going to be really a good part in our episode on Can Heroes Exist Without Villains? Because I actually saved this panel where Swamp Thing actually searches. This is in the issue 20. He searches through the wreckage and he finds Anton Arcane, who is the bad guy, the main bad guy.
This broke my heart.
Yeah, from the beginning of the story. And he picks him up and he's looking for him and he says, "So it's true, you're dead. You're really dead. I don't think I've realized before how important you were to my life. I don't think I really understood before this moment." Because basically what he's coming to terms with is, without this antithesis,
without the kaboom,
why does he exist? And he says, you were my opposite. I had my humanity taken from me. I've been trying to claw it back. You started out human and threw it all away. You did it deliberately. We defined each other, didn't we? By understanding you, I came that much closer to understanding myself. And now you're dead. You're really dead. And what am I going to do now? Because it's like this fight against Arcane basically gave him a purpose and a goal. Like, he basically saw through this quest, through this hero's mission, he could redeem himself and regain his humanity.
And people would accept him. That was the other one.
Always the acceptance, because everyone sees him as this monster, which ends up being, again, a theme that runs throughout Alan Moore's run, and
it runs even now.
Subsequent who takes it over, when Brian K. Vaughan took it over, when Grant Morrison and a young Mark Millar took it over, when friend of the show follows us on Twitter, Scott Snyder, when he took it over. Like, it's always been about that humanity aspect, even when it was something that he could transform back and forth between a human and Swamp Thing, like I can do in our D&D campaign. Even then, or when he couldn't transform, it became such a huge part of his character was that search for his humanity.
Agreed. I like it.
So that in stories that use characters to discover what it means to be human, those are, for some reason, stories I'm really drawn to. It's why I love Star Trek so much, because Spock and Data in the original series, The Next Generation, spend so much time either in Spock's case running away from his humanity and having Bones and Kirk help him redefine that, and Data trying to discover his humanity. This comes at it from a different angle. It's a little bit of a darker angle, and so there's not as much maybe joy in it as there is in Star Trek, but it drew me. That's what draws me back to it. And every time I see anything with Swamp Thing in it, I'm going to pick that up. I don't care if it's something I normally read. I'm going to pick it up because I know there's going to be that little kernel of oh yeah, that is part of what it means to be human. And even though this might be a shocker to you guys, because you probably think I'm a Vulcan with how well I emotionally react to things, but I actually am a human, and it helps me to...
No, not true.
No?
No,
Okay.
Don't believe it.
It helps me to...
Go remove your fake skin Woodrew.
Yeah.
Okay, not that bad. Gee. It helps me continue to dive in what it means to be, for myself, to be human and exist in this world and interact with people, and even though the things I may already know, but just rediscover different angles and kernels of that. And I think that's important in this story and in any storytelling, that we can do that.
That was really good.
That was lovely.
Yeah.
Man, and just because I told you to read a comic.
Comics change lives.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, actually-
Read them. Read them to your
Bill
kids.
Maher.
They're not dumb. Read them.
Yeah.
They're great.
Who is it said they were done recently?
Bill Maher.
Bummer.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah,
And
that
that's-
guy.
That guy.
If
New
we're
rule.
looking-
Bill Maher should shut up. That's a shout out to your show.
Good one.
So if we're talking about the search and the continued search for humanity, I think some of the panels that struck me the most were probably in 22, 23. We've gone back to the bayou at this point. And
Wait. Did you see the Bayou?
if you can do it far back, you can do it.
Yeah, wait.
Oh, you get a swamp thing? Get a swamp thing, crawdad.
I actually, that was actually really nice. Good job.
Oh, yeah, we can handle that one.
I can handle that one. I'm
Are,
okay.
are you referring to when he is rooted?
Yeah.
Yes, and he has put down roots.
Yeah, and he's filling up with
and
water.
it's roots, and so we've got Dr. Woodrue, who's back there, but Abby or Abigail, who's Mrs. Abigail Cable at this junction, and Matt come back, and she finds him, and she's freaking out, but he's going through essentially his metamorphosis beneath the ground, and he's come. We find out that it's worms, and he's picked up Linda, who is his wife. It's the memory of his wife, and he's running with her, and then he comes to his bones, and these literal worms.
Raised them bones.
His little worms go. He said, eat up. We left you the best part.
The
And he
Aryan
goes,
worms.
and he goes,
that.
what is, he's like, there's nothing here. He goes, no, we left you the best part. We left you your humanity. And he picks up the bones, and then is the picnic table, and he sets Linda down, and he goes, sorry, I can't carry you both. And that was the biggest moment for me that stuck in a panel of not just seeing him carry his bones away, but he was choosing his humanity over a grudge, which was looking at the opportunity for the revenge, the longing, all of these things, all of these horrible emotions, which could have easily turned him into a villain.
Right.
They didn't. He chose to find his humanity and to retain it, even while he's trying to, uproot.
Yes.
And tubers. So many tubers.
Yeah, the tubers were. That's Alan Moore getting,
That's
little
weird.
What I want to do is just push it a little more.
yams.
Yams in there. Aryan worms.
So the Aryan worms are such a good panel.
We're trying to not spoil a lot of this because the story is so wonderful
It's
that we
so good,
want you.
We have to at least talk about the anatomy lesson, though.
Yeah,
'cause
we can talk.
otherwise-
Hands down, that is for me as a single comic, as a single issue. As you could leave that as the story if you didn't want to read anything else about Swamp Thing. It is horror. It feels like a one shot, but it feels complete. It's so well written. It does a full circle. It builds and pulls this. It puts its hooks into you in such a great way that you can't.
Never lets it go.
Yep.
So the anatomy lesson, issue 21, starts after the conclusion, obviously, issue 20 at the culmination of issue 20. Swamp Thing is captured by the Sutherland Company, who acts as if they were military who came to capture the swamp monster in this Louisiana bayou. And because at this point, Swamp Thing,
It's all about national security. Oh, okay.
exactly. That's actually one of my favorite points where he's just like, you can say it's for national security, and no one will care what you're doing, where you're going, who you're killing, and it's true. Like when they're unloading the lights, and the guys are like, oh, national security, you boys need a hand, like he's totally cool with it because you're like national security. So they capture Swamp Thing because at this point Swamp Thing still thinks he's a human covered in muck, and when they riddle him with bullets, he goes
dies.
down because he thinks he should die. And that's the thing. He thinks he should die because what we learn in the anatomy lesson, yes, is Swamp Thing is shot up and then put on ice, taken to the Sutherland organization to be researched by none other than Jason Woodrue. Dr. Jason Woodrue was kind of a
Coconut Man.
yeah, and kind of a lame like D-list villain.
He wasn't accordingly. I had never heard of him prior to this, and he comes out after the anatomy lesson. He comes to be like a straight up baller.
Yeah.
Shoot, he's
So-
like a villain for villain's sake.
Originally, he was just the plant master, and he was like this lame hero that the Justice League. They even mentioned it when he goes crazy. The Justice League is like, we beat him every time, and now he's suddenly like ultra powerful. We'll talk about that.
Yes.
But Jason Woodrue is brought in because he has this connection. He's the Floronic Man. He has been mutated, and he is part vegetation, part human. And he's a botanist. So he would be the perfect thing to examine what we think is again a part human vegetable hybrid. That is the Swamp Thing. And what he comes to discover through his insane ramblings and torturous studying is that, in fact, Swamp Thing is not a man combined with vegetation. He is, in fact, just vegetation that thinks it's a man.
Which was like the kicker. Also, that he brought, and you're like, wait.
You're welcome for
no.
that one. That
You're like, no. You're like, wait a minute. Dr. Barry, this can't be possible.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, no. We dug up the wife
Yeah.
to make sure, because we thought, hey, the chemicals got on her too. It was saturated with her too. We can't be this crazy,
She
can
must
we?
be a swamp person, too.
She must be at this point, right?
nay.
Because what they basically find, and this is one of those things, this is the beautiful thing that Alan Moore does, is he takes a detail about the biorestorative formula. Because at this point, we're like, oh yeah, he gets covered in the biorestorative formula, and then it gets burned, and he goes into the swamp, and cool, the vegetation mixes with
Takes
it.
over, yeah.
But if you just go a little bit deeper into the science, quote unquote, of what Len Wein wrote, the biorestorative formula works on vegetation,
Only.
not on humans. Only
Only on
vegetation. And it's meant to bring back vegetables. And this is actually a panel where Woodrue, it's when he does like his weird shower to like remove his
Flexi skin.
Yeah, he's
flexi-flesh.
he's vegetation, but he sprays himself with like this fake skin. But he says the biorestorative formula had turned Holland into a plant, except that it couldn't have. It didn't work on human tissue. And basically that fact is what Alan Moore takes, and he says, okay, now we're going somewhere. If it can't affect human flesh, why is Alec Holland the Swamp Thing? And then this beautiful, beautiful little story about planarian worms. What, pray tell, are planarian worms?
Brace yourself. It's going to get serious.
Here we all.
Science. So
Science.
they Woodrue talks about this study where these worms, these planarian worms, they would teach them how to navigate a maze.
They taught one.
They would taught one how to navigate a maze, and once it was done, they would chop it up and they'd feed it to other uneducated worms.
On
Those
purpose.
worms
That could not run the maze.
Yes, they could not, and they didn't teach them. They fed them the pieces of the other worm. Voila. They could now navigate through the maze. So basically it was this idea of intelligence and consciousness being passed on through food stuff.
Which
And then he starts talking
Woodrow
about...
tries to bring up cannibalism.
Yeah, he's like cannibalism of like the
and-
chiefs and like the high men.
And
these
Sunderland's
tribes.
like, I don't want to talk about this cannibalism, dude. I don't care.
Chew on that one
you
there, then.
failed me.
Yeah.
You have failed me for the last time.
Yeah, Sutherland's like, I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to know the science behind this. Like, quit talking about this. I'll pay someone else to do this research now because you have figured out the
basis of
the
it.
thing, the secret. And one of my favorite scenes is when Woodrue is actually doing the anatomy. He's doing the why can't I remember the word when you cut open a body?
Autopsy.
Thank you. Autopsy of the Swamp Thing. And he pulls out his organs and he's like, yes, these things are lungs, but they don't actually
function.
they don't function.
Yeah.
They look like they look like lungs
but
because
they're not.
he thought he had to have lungs, and he has a brain that doesn't have any synapse gaps, so he just has it because he thought he had to have a brain. And basically, what he determines is a lot of these like internal workings of Swamp Thing are because Alec Holland's consciousness says, "Oh, I'm supposed to have a skeleton. I'm supposed to have organs. I'm supposed to have skin." And so he created all these things for himself, but they don't actually function because Swamp Thing doesn't need those. Because what happened is Alec Holland dropped down and died at the bottom of that swamp. His consciousness was then absorbed by
Photosynthesis.
all the
No,
things,
not photosynthesis.
the plant life, the bugs, everything around, and then that biorestorative formula basically
on
gave
everything.
it form and life, and it took his consciousness and said, "Okay, cool,
Here's a being.
here's a being." And he's like, "Okay, well, I need a skeleton." You know, here's
Make
a
it out of
skeleton.
wood, yeah.
You make it out of wood. You got an organ. You make tumors and tubers and all these things and create
And eyes and
body.
a nose. Yep.
that he thought he needed to have because he was human, but he wasn't. The whole thing, and through this, because Swamp Thing eventually finds this out by reading Woodrue's
His
notes.
file.
His file.
I read the file. Do you like
I was
it?
saying, do you like it? That's one of my favorite scenes.
Oh,
when
it's
Sutherland
so
is like
good.
facing Swamp Thing, and he's like, "I read the file," and he's like,
Did you like it?
Did you like it?
And
What'd you
then,
think?
And then it goes back to the beginning.
Don't kill me.
It goes back to the beginning of the entire.
Where-
he does
where
the full
Woodrue-
circle. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Oh,
giving this
that
opening
mirror, that
Yep.
mirror that you were talking about.
Oh, you're welcome. That
To
Wizard
preface
rules.
the question for Ruru in the chat, similar to iZombie in the absorption, but not in how I believe her name is Liv in iZombie, where she collects the memories from eating the brains.
Yeah.
This
She's
is
terrible in those Christmas movies, by the way.
yeah. We don't talk about that.
Alan Moore didn't write that one there.
No, but so this is as the consciousness is absorbed into all that is the Bayou, all that is the green, and thus gives life and being, or gives
giving me
being to the green.
life. Sorry.
Oh, I just want to be.
No.
I want to be alive.
I stand Swamp Thing. Anyway.
You are the Swamp Thing. Oh my gosh, it's so good, you guys. I don't think we have much more that we can besides going just
Well,
like we love you.
We could
Swampy.
go book by book, but that's just ridiculous. Yeah, it's just over the top.
On top of Anatomy Lesson, I love the issue after it, where that's the one where Swamp Thing is he's rooting himself,
That's Roots.
and he's
Roots.
trying to figure out himself.
It's the dream sequence
Yeah,
essentially.
I love that scene. I
Yeah.
love those two back to back.
So Alan Moore ends up taking it at just a very like acid trip direction with
Walk
all this
for me.
existential. I was high. Because as Swamp Thing releases himself into the green, he gets to experience all these other things. He gets to experience these other ways of seeing the world and consciousness, experiencing life. And it would have been enough. He would have been okay with it if Woodrue had not gotten involved and basically tapped in and started corrupting the green with his own.
He was so happy in the
no,
green.
Yeah,
Well,
initially lack of humanity.
Yeah,
His-
well, it went the way he thought the green wanted it, but it was the way
it
a
was
human
like the
thought
Lorax.
the green
It was
wanted.
like a human trying to be the Lorax.
Yeah. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Then he just takes it the complete opposite direction. Because with my favorite
It's the
thing,
Onceler being the Lorax.
the way he beats him. He doesn't beat him with his fists. He doesn't beat him, with superior vegetation control. He beats him with a question. And that question is, okay, cool. So you want to wipe out all of humankind and replace it with just vegetation. You want to bring back a green world. You want to just bring back all this oxygenation. What is going to then take that oxygen and turn it back into the gases that we need in order to live?
Beat him with science.
That's all he asks. And Woodrue's just sitting there.
And he's freaked out.
And then he
What do you
loses,
mean?
and he starts to lose his mind as he feels all the plants now.
The green is like, we don't need you.
Yeah,
We
we're
can't
like,
be
no,
here.
we're good. Like you obviously didn't know what you were talking about.
The green did this.
Interesting,
Big guy's got a point.
Jason. If that is your real name.
Be gone.
But yeah, no, I feel like we could just go like
We could.
and I could talk about Swamp Thing because like I have all these panels that I screenshotted, and I at first I was like, oh, these will be relevant, and then I'm like, nah, I like that one. Nah, I like that one. I like that. One of my favorite parts in the Anatomy Lesson is the fact that gives him that fresh body.
When it grows from the husk, that was so
'Cause
stunning.
in Roots, you notice like he was very flat. He was very flat and he was very brown and green. And then I have this image of it, and obviously when he was like fresh.
Yeah.
When he was fresh and he was
right
like,
off the table, and he was full
and it's
and
just, what I love about Swamp Thing is the way they just showed the growth, the changes in the character, just like the way the seasons would change,
Yeah.
which of course they bring up at
Are
one point.
you? It looks like you're changing colors. Fall's coming.
Yeah,
It falls on you.
yeah, and then with the fall comes the fear. And
It was
actually,
so good.
you love Etrigan, and I love Etrigan as well. I love it in this one, the way he talks about how him and Jason Blood have kind of come to an agreement.
An agreement,
but they
yes.
haven't.
Which is fun because they do it in Justice League Dark.
Yeah.
They bring up that, and they also then pay a visit to the Swamp Citizen.
Yeah, and one of my favorite things is actually the very end of the whole volume 1. At the very end, it says this story is dedicated with awe and affection to Jack Kirby. This is where Jack Kirby created Etrigan, and Alan Moore loved having him in there.
He's one of my favorite. He's one of my favorite, like, not misunderstood, but if you don't know who he is, it's so fun to even like the sequence to get him to come forward.
Yeah,
is
if you're gonna
so rhymy.
if you're gonna like pick up a random comic and you're like, okay, who is this yellow demon wearing short shorts and
and
rhyming?
blue booties,
Nice
and a
shorts.
cape.
Yeah, blue booties,
Blue
red
booties
shorts,
and a
and a cape.
cape.
And I love that. It started with "By Demons Be Driven," and then "By Demons Be Driven" is the last line of the book as well.
It's good. Oh, also, chat.
Oh, yeah.
I believe Spyro has a great question because we
We
are
hope so.
excited. We are so excited about that.
What
I-
storyline do you think the TV show is going to do?
They're gonna have to
They're
bring
doing.
in.
They've already said they're doing volume.
I want
yeah.
that. Yeah.
But they're gonna have to tap in and at least show some of the roots. But can we?
Yeah. Well, they have to. So I think they can show that and then go immediately into Alan Moore's
Into Saga.
into him learning about himself. So I think it's going to be just a little bit of Roots of the Swamp Thing and then volume 1.
Hopefully, it's only sticks to like the first maybe 2 or 3 issues for Roots. It's not terrible, but it stays contained. No Monkey King.
No, I don't
Puppy
think we need the
Monkey
Monkey
Baby.
King.
Want
Puppy
a
Monkey
live
Baby.
action Monkey King.
Puppy Monkey Baby. Puppy Monkey Baby.
It's actually it's one of those. That's one of those. That's actually kind of a not a tough scene. But that whole Elysium Gardens thing is because when like they have all these kids who my wife worked with. She works with special needs kids, and she worked in like a private school for kids with severe autism. And the way they handle the kids, they're like, okay, just roll them up in mats and then just sit on them. And it's like, I showed that to my wife, and she's just like, no, no. And I'm sure at the time they thought that because a lot of it can be pressure, like pressure can like help
It's
with
a temple.
some.
You're talking temple grade, and
yeah,
you're
with
talking her hug
some
machine.
behaviors.
It was absolutely fine.
but the way they're just like roll them all up, and then they do it
Sitting
with
on
the
them.
mattresses because they were running out.
Mats? Use a mattress. What happens when we run out of mattresses?
Get some blankets.
It got weird.
Oh my
But yeah,
goodness.
I really hope they do because I've already heard it's gonna be creepy. It's gonna fit into Alan Moore's
James Wan's behind it.
yeah, volume 1.
Which means it's gonna hit those notes. It's gonna hit what you need.
And I really hope, like Steve's brought up, I really hope it goes all the way through to issue 37 through 50, 37 through 50, where Constantine gets involved. Because Constantine was
Because
created
then
by Alan
maybe
Moore.
we can get another.
Get me Matt
Can I-
Ryan
Matt
back in
Ryan
there.
back in
Yes,
there,
please,
because
please, please,
Constantine was such a
please,
huge
please,
part
please.
of not Swamp Thing discovering any more about his humanity. He was a huge part of Swamp Thing discovering his potential and what the powers that he had. The deeper he got into the green, realizing how much power and control over the elements that he has. And we see that start to grow a little bit in the first volume, but he's still very much like,
He's fresh.
I punch.
Yeah.
Just imagining. I'm just imagining my own
I was gonna say
version
he's green,
of,
but he's fresh too.
of a Constantine cameo. Just it's a dark setting, and all of a sudden all you see is a lighter.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, oi oi.
Yeah,
Yep. That's all you need. That's all you need. And all of us would be like,
Just a cigarette lighting up, and when it lights up, you see his hair. the
You
face.
should read it because when he meets him, it's so Constantine. He's like, oh, it took you so long, and you're like, who are you? Like, what are you? You're not allowed to talk to him like that.
A lot of green you've got on there.
Because at that point, his body, I think, had been destroyed, and he's like regenerating. And Constantine knows that he can do faster. He knows he's like, you can drop this body and start another body right over there. Like you can come from.
So
a
he knows
seedling.
already.
He knows
Okay.
what Swamp Thing can do. He knows what an avatar of the green can do.
see, but this is the potential. This is why you gotta have friends.
And low place. Wait, no.
Just please have Matt Ryan. Just please get the cameo. Just please put him in there for a
Do
little
you know
bit.
how
The quarterback, Matt Ryan?
Not that one.
Oh.
No,
Do you know
the
how
British
fantastic
actor.
it would be if they did? So they do this. They push out Swamp Thing, and then DC Universe just happens to drop. It's the 50th anniversary of Comic Con this year. They happen to drop. Hey, you guys, we know you've been craving it. So he'd be some Constantine, and everyone would just literally
be all about it.
There would be so much screaming from the boys, not even just the girls.
coat back and the loose tie. Come on.
Yeah, and the cigarettes. I want. They're one of.
Constantine's overrated. I'm just kidding. So just kidding.
I saw him. He was
Got the walk off.
He said it, and he's like, how long can I hold this before
No,
Steve
I'm
comes
over
around with a
here.
chair? Oh, Jesus.
Sorry, microphone.
I'm going to die.
Yeah, one of my favorite
I think
Constantine
we should-
stories. It needs to be turned into a movie. It's when he's actually dying from cancer and he convinces 3 demons to barter for his soul.
So
it's great.
yeah. See, that's the open for Justice League Dark, the animated series.
coming back
for the
to
animated?
Or Spyro just said Swamp Thing shows up in Legends of Tomorrow.
joking.
I'd be all about that if he just popped
That'd be
up,
fun.
came in, came out. So
Table here.
the reasons you need to read Swamp Thing Volume 1, we're all going to give some. I'm going to go first. That way you guys can think about it. 'Cause I know so the artwork, like we already said, the artwork feels a little dated, but it fits it so well. It fits it beautifully. It's like you said, it's got that hyper detail sometimes and the less detail in others. The artwork and the writing, it just flows so perfectly, and it's
I love that you don't have you
I
have a
don't
reason,
have
but
the
you don't
words.
have the words.
I don't have the words because
As
I love it. Blech.
You are so affectionately in love with this
I
book.
can't be logical.
Yeah.
I can't be like logical
So
and
how about you
scientific
let-
like.
How about you let the logical people go?
Yeah,
Andy?
logical people go, and then
How
I
you
then I'll
feeling?
go.
Oh,
You should just
are you not
read
ready for this? Because you want to know the emoting
Amy's got it.
/ logical person's got
I'd
this.
say you should go next.
Read the book.
I like it, Steve's. It's Steve's and
Read it.
Steve's.
It's fun. Read it. It's good.
So the reasons I think you should read this book, coming from somebody that doesn't like horror, it is the gentlest way to get into any type of a horror story. You become affectionately attached to Alec Holland, to the green, it makes you not only question yourself and the existence of humanity in self, but in the environment around you. It makes you more aware. It does have the art styling very much for Neil Gaiman, which I loved, because for Sandman, that also wasn't dealing with just humanity, but it was dealing with your consciousness in the truest form and what we do to reach our dreams. And in this, it's more, I'm going to say it, I'm not meaning it as a pun, it's more grounded.
Oh, there you are there. Put that in the story.
So reading this, I'm happy to pick up any other Swamp. I might go with volume 2 on this. This is how much it's impacted me. And like, I'm not going to go and read, volume 2 of Redneck, no offense. Love you, you crazies.
Redneck?
Southern Vampires, Werewolves.
Okay, got it.
More horror.
Jason.
Statham.
No.
But it's worth
Bateman.
it's worth the read, and as much as I could say, the sheer expressions that have been coming out of the doc this evening of exuberance about how much his comrades love this should be enough to get you excited about the book.
Aaron's.
Jason Aaron's?
Yeah. Actually, no. It's either Jason Aaron or Jason Latour.
Jason Blood.
I think it's Jason Latour.
Okay.
Jason Blood.
Just Voorhees.
Steve's, why should they read it?
Well, I mean, Amy hit just about every point there.
I was trying to be kind so that read it. I've also got a curfew, so I'm trying to be a good
Yeah, I
girl.
was about to say, yeah, we're going to wrap.
Good intro for horror story. Alan Moore gets deep with the character, deeper than I thought it was. I mean, other than that, everything Amy said is spot on. It's definitely something you should read. I want to read volume 2 because I want to see my boy Constantine pop up.
Exactly. I want more Etrigan.
Coming from a non-horror, whatever,
Horror.
backgrounds, every story, like it builds attention slowly, and you get to that point, you're like, this is not going to end well, and the tension. I generally don't emotionally connect with stories in a way that like I can feel my heart rate going when it comes to reading a book or something like that. But this one, like the Monkey King. Like that got me going when Woodrow had the house explode, like that kind of stuff like pulled me in. So like from just purely a storytelling standpoint, it's going to pull you in. It's going to get your adrenaline going a little bit. And if it's something you've never picked up before, like if you're not the type of person to read anything of this genre, pick it up, because it's a great story. It's a good way to break in, and it'll get you a little worked up, and you're gonna love it every time.
David Barry.
Hey.
It's good. He said
It's good. Read the book.
It's a good book.
I will say that while being a wonderful introduction to horror, it's also just a good horror book. Like it's not like I'm just getting my feet wet. Like it treats you just well enough to where you don't feel like you're being just abused by like a horror story.
Yeah, exactly.
But a horror fan could easily pick it up and be like, oh, they're not going to say it's tame. They're like, this is good.
Yeah.
It takes you in so many ways to so many places. I've always loved this book. I will always love this book.
You read it consistently.
I read it so often, and it's one of those things where I can pitch it to you, but I can't even sometimes explain. I love it.
It's well balanced.
It is so well balanced. It is a fine
as everything
whiskey,
should be,
cigar, and a lovely steak.
It's unctuous. Do you know what else is unctuous?
Unctuous.
We're pretty unctuous.
Yeah, we are.
You're very welcome.
You know why
for
we
my
keep saying we're
storytelling.
unctuous?
Why do we keep saying unctuous?
We're unctuous because we have so much content that you can find for us.
Oh, it's a segue.
VK Plus Crusaders.
Look at that.
.com, our home on the internet. It's over there. It's very tiny. This
it is very tiny.
I don't know why it's so tiny. I screwed this up, man. I gotta this. VKPlusCrusaders.com. That is our hub on the internet. From there, you can find all of our content, our previous episodes, our D&D streams, Crossover, where Manderson and his brother talk about sports and comics, the Dame Patrol, where Amy and the Dames, Minnie and Stephanie, talk about all things geekery, no gatekeeping allowed. The Sunday Coffee with the Azorian one, where he talks about whatever the heck he wants to on a Sunday morning. It's always fun. It's always random. It's our loose sock. It's our odd sock. Odd sock drawer.
I like it.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to call that.
I like it.
Our website will soon be overhauled because we are now TCC Network, where we have all of these shows, where you can check them all out all the time. And you can also check out our flagship show, this one,
this
VK
one.
Plus Crusaders. Hey. So, for the Capeless Crusaders. My name is David Barry at Dr. Barry. I will talk about the sponsors in a second. At varying social media platforms to my right, I am joined by
Alan Moore says never question my writing.
Oh, he doesn't even sound like that at all.
Alan Moore says
No, he's probably got more of a Cockney accent. I don't even know. Maybe he does.
what I'm saying when I speak. This is the Zorian one, Anthony Steves. Lobbing it over, way over to the left.
Oh, all the
in
way
the
over?
Spider-Verse.
I'm going to be in so much trouble. I want to be alive and meet the sun. This is Amy. You can find me at IJ New Robot on varying social media. God help me. Beside me.
Hello, I'm Anderson, and also I'm wondering why you always do a stink face when you do a British accent. You can find me on Son of Mander on Instagram and Twitter. You want to talk about the sponsors? Where are you doing anything?
Have you seen Alan Moore's face?
The sponsors: Empire's Comics Vault, Beard Bomb Brush, The Critical Dice, Empire's Comics Vault, Home Away from Home, Comic Books, Pugs, Hot Sauce, Beard Bomb Brush, Beards, 15% off using the code
Yes.
KPLUS.
Sorry.
Is
Toy
it the
drive?
toy drive still going on?
Yeah,
Yes.
till the 19th.
Until
Till the 19th, there's a toy drive. Down here at Empires. Come down.
Where?
Buy a toy. Donate to the Children's Receiving Home of Sacramento. Right here.
What's the address?
1120 Fulton Avenue.
Sweet K. Come down and check that out. You can also, like I said, go to Beard Bomb Brush or Critical Dice. Use the code KPLUS to get 15% off of your purchase. So, really quickly, I wanted to read one of my favorite lines.
Do it.
Hit it.
From Roots. Not
the show.
Not
Not the
Crypto Geek Day.
miniseries, no.
The comic book. No, but Alan Moore. Yeah, he's a wordsmith, man.
Oh, look at me go.
There is a house above the world where the over people gather. There is a man with wings like a bird. There is a man who can see across the planet and wring diamonds from the anthracite. There is a man who moves so fast that his life is an endless gallery of statues. Oh, I love that line. In the house above the world, the over people gather and sit and listen to a dry, mad voice that whispers of earth death.
Nice.
Alan Moore, thanks, man.
Hey, welcome this.
No. Anyway, thanks for hanging out in the chat. If you're on Twitch, hello, give us a follow. If you're on YouTube after the fact, like, comment, subscribe. Podcast app, like, comment, subscribe. Do all those things. We love you. Other things. For the Capeless Crusaders, good night.
Good night.